colleagues. For those of you that are new to Soda or haven't yet explored what Soda does, I just wanted to share with you what our mission is. It's simple, or we like to keep it simple. We want to be able to empower everyone in your organization to share and use high quality data. And that mission starts with trust in the data. So for all the things your organization uses, and this is particular to making decisions, those trusted reports, be it machine learning models or supporting decision making, none of that really works without reliable data. So every pipeline, every model, and every report, whether you're an engineer, data scientist, an analyst, is only as good as the quality of the data it's built on. And that's what you're going to see today in the context of AI and ML and how to really make sure that your data is accurate and actionable. And that we're trying to drive efficiencies and empower everyone to do more with their data. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Tyler, our presenter today, to the screen, Tyler, and let him dive into the showcase. It's over to you.
Thank you, Tosh. My name is Tyler. I'm a customer engineer at Soda. And today I'll be talking about how AI can be used to improve your efforts to manage your data quality. So some of the ways that AI can help with data quality are, first and foremost, to enhance the efficiency with which you define and enforce your data quality requirements. This happens by empowering users to manage the data quality through low and no-code business-friendly user interfaces. In particular, AI can be used to automatically generate precise and sensible data quality checks. And it provides a natural language interface for generating code snippets for custom data quality checks. Additionally, machine learning can be used to automatically learn and detect abnormal patterns in your data. And I'll show that towards the end of today's session. So the agenda for today is to go through some of the different ways that Soda's Ask AI feature can help with your data quality management. So today I'm going to take on the role of a business analyst with not a lot of coding experience. And my objective is to define and enforce some data quality requirements for my company's retail data. So I'll show you how you can use Soda's Ask AI feature to first generate a data quality agreement using some basic information about a table. I'll show how you can generate regular expressions for data validity checks. These are used to check the format of the data. And then finally, I'll show how you can use Ask AI to generate SQL queries so that you can build custom data quality checks. And finally, at the end, I'll showcase how Soda's machine learning driven checks can be used to automatically detect anomalies in your data. So what is Ask AI? So Ask AI is a feature included in Soda Cloud, and it shows up in the Soda Cloud UI as a button. You'll see this little symbol, this purple symbol, and Ask AI. And when you click that, it's going to open up a chat window. And you can use this to interact with the AI and ask questions or request that the AI generate things for you. And so this is powered by a retrieval augmented generative large language model. And this model has access to a vector database of Soda's documentation and code, so that when you ask a question, it can search through this database and find relevant and accurate answers. So some of the use cases for Ask AI include answering technical questions about Soda, generating Soda CL checks, generating regular expressions, and generating SQL. So what is Soda CL? So Soda CL is a YAML-based declarative syntax that Soda uses to implement data quality checks. And I'll show basically how you can create these checks without having to learn Soda CL using the AI. Next slide. So the first variation of the Ask AI feature is a more general purpose one. And so you'll see this in the homepage of the Soda Cloud UI. And this AI can be used to basically ask and get answers to any questions you have about Soda, including how to use Soda, as well as have it ask it to generate specific checks for you based on some information that you provide. So here you can see an example where I just described some information about a table and ask it to generate checks for me. And it does this very accurately, and it describes these checks, and it also gives me sources for where the information came from. The next variation of Ask AI is specialized for generating regular expressions. So regular expressions are a syntax for specifying certain patterns in a string or in some data. And so regular expressions are useful in the context of data quality for specifying certain requirements about the format of your data. So you can see here, I'm using a no-code interface to define a validity check. And then I'm using the Ask AI feature to generate a regular expression for this particular check. The next variation of Ask AI is for generating SQL. So in Soda, there's two different kinds of checks that can take advantage of SQL. The first is a SQL failed rows check, where you specify which rows are considered bad or failing. And you can use SQL to do that. And the second is custom SQL metric checks. And so here you use SQL to generate a custom metric and then compare the value of that metric to some threshold. So as you can see here, I'm building a SQL metric check with the no-code interface and using the Ask AI feature to generate some SQL for me. That way I can still build these more complex custom checks without having to know SQL myself. Finally, Soda offers a type of check called an anomaly detection check. And this is useful for basically not having to specify an explicit threshold for your checks. So let's say you have some metric like the row count, and you don't want to have it fail only when the row count exceeds some fixed threshold, but rather you want to learn from your data what that threshold should be. And so that's what the anomaly detection check is for. It's going to look at this metric and how it's evolving over time, and then try to learn what is the right threshold for this metric. And when a measurement comes in that deviates from what's expected, it raises an alert that there's an anomaly. So now I'm going to dive into the actual live demo and show you how you can use all of these things. Can you see my screen?
Perfectly, Tyler.
All right. So this is the Soda Cloud UI. This is the homepage here. We can see some information about the quality of our data that we've been monitoring in Soda. And here you can see the button for the Ask AI feature. This is for the general purpose Ask AI feature. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take advantage of all the different versions of Ask AI so that we can rapidly build a contract, as it were, for our data that ensures that the quality of our data meets the requirements that we specify. So we're going to start here by creating an agreement. An agreement is basically a way of specifying with the Soda checks language what are the data quality requirements for our data. So here we'll pick our data source. We'll just use this demo data source as an example. And this one's going to be for retail data. So we'll call this the retail data agreement. Now here you can see is a field for specifying our checks, but we'll assume for now that I don't know how to write Soda CL checks. So I haven't learned the syntax yet. Fortunately, we have the Ask AI feature, so I don't need to learn it. I can just talk to the AI in natural language, and it will generate these checks for me. So first, what I'm going to do is just give a little description of my table that I want to check. I'm going to just say what are some of the names of the columns and what's the name of the table. And then I'm going to ask it to generate some checks for me. So I have a table called retail orders with these columns. Please write an agreement in SOTA CL for my table. And so pretty quickly now it generates some SOTA CL checks for me. And it describes what each of them is doing. So you can see this one here is checking to make sure the table is not empty. This one is checking the number of missing order quantity, making sure that the minimum of order quantity is above our threshold, and some validity checks, and even a custom failed rows check. And you can see here some of the sources that were used to generate this response. So now I could just copy this code snippet here, paste it into my agreement. And now I'm off to a great start in specifying the data quality requirements for this retail orders table. So we can test the checks now, but we're going to skip that for now. Could set up some notifications. Here we're going to specify the scan that we want to use to run these checks. And we're just going to create a new scan definition for the purposes of this demo. So we'll call this retail data scan. You can see we can specify the schedule on which this scan will run. And we can also trigger this scan externally, both using a button in the UI as well as through the API. We'll just save this for now. Well, we already have a scan with that name. We'll just change the name. All right, cool. So let's save this agreement. You can see it's here. We haven't run these checks yet. We're going to add a few more checks before we run it. But by the end, within a few minutes, we'll have built our first data quality scan with SOTA, and we'll be able to run it and see what the results are. So next, let's add some checks using the no-code interface. So you can see some of the different kinds of checks that SOTA offers: missing data checks, validity checks, numeric, duplicate, and so on. All of these can be built without writing code. So let's start with the validity check. So we'll look at a different retail table, retail customers, and pick a column. Let's start with street address. So we want to make sure that the format of the street address is valid. Give a name to our check. We're going to pick that new scan that we created. And then here you can see some built-in formats we could choose. In this case, we're going to build a custom format with regular expressions. Now, I don't know how to use regular expressions, so I'm going to use this Ask AI to help. And so we just simply ask the AI to generate the regular expression for a street address, and we can give it a little hint of what we're looking for. We're looking for something that starts with some numbers followed by some letters and no punctuation. And in some cases, the first time that you generate something with the AI might not be exactly what you were looking for, and you can always try again and tweak your prompt a little bit. So you can see it's generated a regular expression here, and I can directly insert that into my check here. And of course, as I mentioned, all of these checks are going to be implemented in SOTA CL behind the scenes. So you can see what that SOTA CL looks like here. Let's just go ahead and add this check to our scan. It's testing it right now to make sure that it runs. Okay, so this one ran without errors, but there were some rows that are failing this validity check. But we'll take a look at the results in more detail in a moment. Let's just add a few more checks. So we can generate another validity check. This one, we're going to check the format of a credit card number. Say credit card number format is valid. Select that credit card number here. Then we'll use our AI again to generate a new regular expression. Sorry, my cat is meowing loudly. All right, we have a new regular expression here, insert it, and then we'll make sure this is attached to the right scan and then add it to our scan. And we're going to generate two more checks, but this time they're going to be using our SQL specialized Ask AI. Okay, this one runs without errors, good. Add a couple more. So next time we're going to add a SQL failed rows check. So this one is going to use some SQL query to specify what rows are failing. And so here we're going to look at the dim customer table. And in this case, we want to make sure that the cost of the product does not exceed. Oh, sorry, this is the wrong table. Should be dim product. We want to make sure that the cost of the product does not exceed the price. So I'm going to ask it to generate a query that returns the rows where the cost is greater or equal to the price. So remember, we're identifying the failed rows here. So now it generates the SQL and I can insert it directly here. And then for the name, we'll say cost is less than price. Add this check. Okay, good. And then one more, we're going to create a custom SQL metric. We're going to look again at the dim product table. And this time we want to make sure that the minimum profit is greater than 0 or is positive. We want to query on dim products, can create a new metric that's equal to the difference between the list price and the standard cost. Generated it here, we can insert it into our check. Now, in some cases, we may not want to directly add the check right away to our scan. Instead, we may want to first propose it and have it be reviewed by some other members of our team. So we can do that by clicking the propose check button, and that's going to initiate this discussion workflow where others can come in and review the check, give feedback, or make changes to it before it's added to our scan. So once again, it's running this test on the check to make sure that it runs. We see a little gray question mark here. You can take a look at the logs and see what's going on. It says an error occurred, could not convert string to float. So the issue here is that we have a threshold that's expecting a number, but our data type here is a string. So we need to review this and make a small change by converting this metric to a number first. And this is also something that the AI could help with if we were to tweak our prompt a little bit. Now let's make sure that these thresholds are correct here. So we do want to update this as well. So it's going to fail when the profit is less than or equal to 0. Now this looks good. We can add this to our scan. All right. So we can see some of the checks here that we've created. Let's make sure that this is attached to the correct scan. Looks good. Well, this one needs to be put on the retail data scan too. Okay, now we can take a look at the scan that we've built. Retail data scan 2. So we haven't executed it yet. If we click this button here, we can execute the scan, which now includes all of the checks we built in our agreement, as well as the 2 validity checks and the 2 SQL checks. You can see this failed with errors, but we can take a look and see what's going on. These all look good. But in a sense, what we've shown here is how you can use the AI to build a large number of checks pretty quickly, and then run the scan and be able to see these results. You can just see an example here of one of the checks. This is the one we built to make sure that the cost is less than the price. So we can see here that 211 rows violated this rule. We can see a sample of these failed rows here below. The last thing I wanted to show is the anomaly detection checks. So if we take a look at one of our tables, retail orders. This is a check that we've set up to look at the payment methods and the number of rows that are using different payment methods. And so for each payment method type, so we group by payment method, and then we have an anomaly detector for the row count of each one. So if we look in here as an example with PayPal, you can see over time, what was the number of transactions that use PayPal. And you can see here these thresholds that are learned by the underlying machine learning model. And so for a while, everything that was happening was within the threshold. But then on this date, the number of PayPal transactions exceeded what was expected by the model. And so it raises an alert that there's an anomaly. And so we can set up notification rules so that when this happens, a notification is sent to your communications platforms like Slack. And then you can come in here and actually give feedback to the model. Say whether it was correctly classified or not, and how to handle future and past values. And that feedback will be pushed onto the model and improve its forecasts for the future. So those are the main items that I wanted to show today. We do still have 5 minutes left if there are any questions.
Fantastic, Tyler. Thank you. I'm going to share my screen and open us up for questions. I know that Eric has been managing the Q&A panel there. Eric, I can't remember if you're going to read out any questions loud to us or send them through the chat panel. Let me know.
Yep, I was going to go ahead and read them aloud. And so
Fantastic.
one that did come up was, does the Ask AI have access to any of my data?
Ask AI will only have access to the data that you provide in the chat. So it's not going to implicitly access any of your data, not even metadata, without your permission. Only whatever you write into the chat.
All right, and another one. As far as accuracy is concerned, the source data that is used to generate or help generate the responses, how reliable is that?
The source data is highly reliable. It's the SOTA documentation and source code. And in my experience, these AI assistants generate highly accurate responses. However, with all AI, there's always some uncertainty. And so it is good, best practice, to double check the things that the AI generates and maybe even, initiate one of those discussion workflows so that others can come in and review and make sure that it's perfect before actually running it on your production data.
All right. And then another one concerning privacy. So where are these prompts going, and what does SOTA do to ensure privacy?
Yeah, so whenever you write a message into the Ask AI chat, that message will be sent to a third-party LLM provider. However, we have agreements in place with these providers to ensure that none of the data will be used for training these models. And also we can provide some additional protections for enterprise customers to make sure that there's additional controls in place and enforcement of certain compliance for the data privacy.
All right. One other one. Is there an option to disable the Ask AI? I know within this particular question or this organization, they're not allowing the use of AI.
Yeah, so this is an optional feature in the organization settings and through the SOTA Cloud UI. Admin users can enable or disable each of these three Ask AI features.
All right. I'm not seeing any other questions just yet.
Thank you, Eric. That was beautifully managed and well answered, Tyler. We have a few minutes remaining for anyone to send through any last questions. We are, of course, available after the session. We recently ran a survey which was answered by almost 300 data practitioners. So that's a mix of engineers, data scientists, and data analysts. And over 66%, in fact, precisely 66%, responded that AI will have an impact into how data quality is managed, be that a slight disruption or entirely disrupting it. But we know that there still is that need for human oversight to get the right insights. We're going to be sharing that survey and those results in the next few days, so keep an eye out for that. The key takeaway, I think, is that AI is going to change how we manage data quality. It's how we adopt that into our organizations, how we adopt that into our workflows, and embrace that to help us be better data practitioners. So next steps to get started is pretty easy. If you're not using SOTA already, you can sign up for a free trial. You can speak to our team to get a even more enhanced demo from Tyler and his fellow customer engineers. For those of you that are familiar or want to get started on your own, we've got two resources. We've got our Slack community, where you can join your peers and Team SOTA to answer any questions and understand more use cases of people putting SOTA into action. And then we've also got our very thorough and action-packed docs, which have a lot of how-to guides, use cases, best practices, and implementation support to get you going in SOTA. So with that, we've hit the time right on the point here. I want to thank everyone for attending. Tyler, thank you for your presentation. Thank you, SOTA AI. Always be polite to the AI. And I wish everyone a good rest of day. That concludes today's session. Thanks, Tyler. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.